Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mortgage Momentum. Today we have Daniel Simanovsky. He is the co-founder of Agency Insurance and also co-founder of Agency Social. And this week we're going to get into using AI and content you can scale without lifting a finger.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a finger.
There could be a finger.
Stay tuned. Welcome to Mortgage Momentum. Smart guidance, real stories, better home decisions. We are your hosts. I'm Jarod Temple.
And I'm Danielle Hugunin. Thanks for joining us today. This is your go-to space for strategy, stories, and staying sharp in an ever-shifting market.
Let's jump in and get the momentum rolling. Let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Dude, congrats on nailing the last name, by the way. You were a little nervous before we started about my last name.
Well, truth be told, I've butchered it.
Yeah, you don't know
for
how
the
many
last
times.
month and a half.
This has been going on for a while? Got it.
Yes.
He's practiced. He tried to send me a calendar request. I'm like, you
okay,
spelled
gotcha.
the last name wrong.
It's not easy to spell.
It's not. Yeah. My teachers in high school had a really tough time. It's Russian. I was born in Russia. That's where it comes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, little known
Welcome
fact.
to America.
Thank you. Great success.
He has an employee that has almost.
Well, we did have that employee,
Oh,
and then
whoops.
no, he was
Never
great,
mind.
but
Doesn't work out when your names are almost the
yeah,
same.
exactly. It was too confusing. He literally had the relatively the same name as me. People were like, "Holy, wait, is that
Who's
your-
who?
did you-
Who's
who's
who?"
who?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this isn't working."
Okay.
So yeah, we changed it up a little bit though.
Well, poor guy.
That's all right.
Okay.
He's in a better place.
So you always have lots of great things to say.
Yeah.
Most of which I don't even understand.
Right.
But I know that you've been talking a lot about your own personal brand.
Yeah.
And how that plays into marketing and
Totally.
AI and all things interesting. So
Yeah.
tell us what goodness you have today.
That's the world we're living in today. For your listeners that don't know, as Jarod mentioned, I own an insurance brokerage with my partner Chris, and then I actually am the founder and only person at the marketing company right now, which is kind of my baby, which has been really cool. But the way I got into all that is when I first got in the insurance business, I was basically taught to go chase mortgage lenders. Well, it was a little rough in the beginning, just like anyone starts a business. You go cold door knocking and people are like, "Who are you? What do you want?" No, I'm good. So I kind of figured there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's when I kind of realized that, okay, well, what's important to mortgage lenders? Real estate agents. So if I can make that connection, then I make myself more valuable than the next guy. Didn't know I was going to do that, but I really took it upon myself to build a brand. I got really into the whole content space. There's that guy, Gary Vee, that's always yelling at people online, like, "You got to be posting 5 times a day." And I'm like, oh my God, like this is crazy. I can barely post once.
Yeah.
Right.
But a lot of what he was talking about resonated with me. And I just kind of said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to see what happens. Even for me, who has a pretty big personality, I've gotten to a point where I just don't care anymore. And it's like, hey, if I want to achieve a goal, like I'm not going to not go for it because I'm too afraid of what someone thinks.
Right.
So, I kind of figured it out, stumbled, made mistakes, but ultimately had a little series around Kansas City where people would interview me and I would interview restaurant owners and I'd have my crazy Russian mother with me. And that was always very
Those were
interesting.
Some of my favorites,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, there
Those
was
are
one
great.
where I interviewed about like, "Hey, Mom, what do you think personal liability is?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. This is a good question." And then I would tell her and she's like, "Oh, this is like when we were in high school. Protection. And everyone's like, "Whoa, what is happening right now?" And people liked it and gravitated towards it. But more interesting is I had real estate agents coming to me asking for help. "Hey, I love what you're doing. I should be doing that. Oh my God, I'm so scared to put myself out there." And I'm like, whoa, like hold on a minute. And that's when I realized there was a huge opportunity in this market, but actually in every single market. We're in a new space now for marketing yourself online. And we've gone through where I think, decades ago, people could just, email, cold call.
Right.
Now it's a whole different world. Everyone's attention is on social media. So you have to put yourself out there. You got to do it in a way that's actually genuine and something that actually catches people emotionally. And it's very difficult for a lot of people to communicate that way because it's weird to like pull out your phone and be like, "Hey, da-da-da." Like, so I've kind of stepped in this role of coaching and teaching, and it's been a wild world now with AI and everything that's happening. But this is the direction everything's going, and that's what has to happen. But from a branding perspective, and you guys can cut me off because I'm just like the motor bunny. I'll just keep talking. But
That's good.
as we start getting into this whole AI stuff, I mean, that's kind of it's scary and cool at the same time, as we all know. We've already heard of all the kind of negative side of things. I mean, Oracle just recently laid off 30,000 employees with an email just like that. Hey, we don't need you anymore. Thanks so much, right? But on the other end, there's medical discoveries happening every single day that could have never happened without it.
Right.
The way that I've been using it in my business, solely on the marketing side of things, I've always been really good at coming up with ideas, but I always struggled with connecting the dots. And one thing that has been super impactful for me is on these language models, whether you're using ChatGPT or Claude, there's a voice function. So you can basically hit the microphone and you can start talking to it. And it'll basically translate everything you're saying, because it takes a while to text rather than voice. So what I've done, originally what I did was like, okay, here's all my strengths, here's all my weaknesses, here's what the space I'm playing in, here's what I want to do, here's this. And then I basically prompted to act like a strategic business coach. Help me identify the things in my life that I'm really good at, that I could then turn that into some sort of business opportunity. This is when I initially started coming up with the marketing company. And it was amazing because it started connecting all these dots for me that I just could never connect for myself. I never lacked the ability to do action. It was just like, okay, I've got this idea, but then like, what do I do? And what about this? I just couldn't see how to get from A to Z. And what it's been able to do for me is to get me from A to Z. Right? There's been some trial and error through that, but it's been game changing for me. And so now I've been kind of coaching people on like whether they're a plumber or they're, you know, whatever business they're in, or maybe like I was talking to someone who's a friend. She's like, God, I don't like my job and I don't have any options. I don't know where to go, but I would love to have some sort of outlet. And I was like, well, you know what? Here's what you should do. Go ahead, do this, talk to AI, see what gaps there are in your life. And, you know, sure enough, she identified some key things. And, you know, again, it's up to the person to take action and move in that direction. Sometimes you need a little kick in the butt, but it's been a game changer from, you know, how to optimize, you know, that next level of your business.
So for someone who has no idea even what you just said, let's just go to that point.
Right.
You know, where do they start with that?
So let's dumb it down. We've got ChatGPT,
Sure.
right? Which a lot of people have now been moving from ChatGPT to Claude.
Okay.
Which is another language model, which now does a little bit more stuff than ChatGPT. All of these.
I just got used to ChatGPT.
I know. Now everyone's it's a whole push. Now that's over there.
I'm always about a decade behind.
Yeah, that's a tough part. But let's say, for example, let's take you for example. You're a mortgage lender here in Kansas City. You're a high producing loan officer. I know for you, it's always been like, how do I grow my business? How do I grow my own brand?
Sure.
You're also not necessarily the type of person that like wants to necessarily be everywhere and put themselves out there. You're a little bit more of like a calculated, very type A, very smart, educated person, which is great. So I think like for you, you could literally open up one of your AI platforms and say, okay, here's who I am, here's what I do, these are my personality traits, this is how I run my business, here's the type of stuff that I'm trying to achieve. You know, currently this is the kind of business that I'm doing, but I want to get to a point where I'm doing double that, right? Help reverse engineer this process for me using my strengths to get me to where I want to go. And then all of a sudden it's going to compute all this stuff that you might have never even thought about, where it's like, hey, have you identified this potential target as a source of business, where you're like, oh man, I didn't even think to go after that type of business, right? Because your business, you're pretty much trained to go after real estate agents and things like that, which I think the majority of people do. But I just feel like it really does an amazing job to help you kind of analyze and view things that you might have not really put your finger on. And then you kind of like take that and then you keep going down the rabbit hole. So maybe it says like, for example, a certain kind of financial advisor. Okay, well, yeah. Or what about this specific type of person that's specific dealing with this? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, that market's a little bit less saturated. And now you're showing up where people are like, oh, yeah, who are you? Yeah, I'd love to take that meeting.
Right.
So I feel like for, you know, again, that's kind of off the cusp, but I feel like in your world that would kind of resonate.
I think a lot of the things that ChatGPT does is it kind of points out or brings the things that are in your blind spot to light.
Totally.
And gets you thinking about things in a different way.
Yeah.
Which is immeasurable as far as what it's worth.
Yeah. I think one of the bigger things right now too, and this is because I teach classes and, you know, my business is insurance, but at the same time I'm working with a lot of real estate agents, a lot of mortgage lenders, but this applies to, I think, any kind of business right now. So what's happening, most people now are starting, at least in the real estate space, like they'll start their searches with these language models, right? So before, people would just go to Zillow or they'd go wherever and they'd go look at houses. Well, now they'll go directly to ChatGPT and type in, hey, I'm looking for this type of house in this type of area, or I'm looking for this type of real estate agent that can handle this type of transaction. So then AI will then make recommendations based on that. So how you get recommended is if you're optimized properly. So the way that you do that is you have to make sure that AI can discover you. So the way to be discovered is you need to make sure that AI knows who you are, what you do, and where you are. And so one way to do that is, for example, and again, this really applies to any sort of business. Let's just say you're a plumber, okay? So on your website, whether it's your website, and you're gonna really do this across the board, but let's just take your website, for example. There's usually an about us or a bio, or whatever it is. You or your team, whoever does your marketing, would take that bio, copy it, and then you're gonna paste that into one of the language models. So let's just say it's ChatGPT. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna use this prompt. Go ahead and rewrite this bio so that it is AI optimized for discoverability. And so what it'll do is rewrite the whole thing. It'll look like the same thing, but it won't be the same thing. There'll be certain keywords in there. There'll be certain words, actions, and things like that, so that it basically notifies AI what kind of plumber they are, where they live, what kind of projects they do. Because as soon as someone types in, hey, I need help with a service line issue on my house, it knows to then go and pull from that. Now, there's a number of different ways that you want to continue to enhance that. For example, blogging is like back, because AI goes and scrubs the internet because it's only pulling from existing information, right? It wasn't built with any preconceived notions. So all it does is goes and pulls what's on there. So if you've got a blog that specifically addresses like the #1 plumbing mistake someone makes when buying a new house, it sees that article and pulls that back. Similar in your space, the biggest mistake to make when you're buying your first home. Right? Or, things like that. So it's really critical that you now start changing and updating your profiles, all on LinkedIn. And it sounds complicated, but it's not. You're copying, you're pasting what you already have, and you're just going, hey, optimize this so that it's for discoverability. So your Instagram profile, your LinkedIn profile. The biggest source that you also really want to start exploring is YouTube. Because most of these language models, they pull, their #1 source is from YouTube. So AI can't watch the videos, but it can read the captions and it can also read the descriptions. And so a lot of these language models go directly to there and then pull from there and then report back to what they found.
Which is interesting because I feel like for the last few years, it's been all like, okay, Reels, social media, Instagram, we're all hyper-focused on the perfection of, which is why I never do it.
Right.
I do not love
But you're
it.
telling me we're going back to words. Words matter more than they have been.
Yes.
Seemingly, at least.
Yep.
So how do you marry those two things? If you're someone who's gotten really good at posting Reels and like putting yourself out there on Instagram.
Yeah.
How does somebody connect that? YouTube, to your point. I think that's
So I think there's a number of different things going on. All of these platforms are getting smarter too. So like Instagram, for example, like hashtags used to be a big deal, right? Like you hashtag mortgage lender or first time home buyer. You no longer have to apply hashtags anymore. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that people don't know about. And there's a lot of AI going on now where it knows to feed exactly what the audience is looking for.
based on the algorithm.
Based on the algorithm.
Yep.
So the
No
cool
hashtags.
No more hashtags. So like
I spent a lot of time
so you
on
got to
hashtags.
get rid of
Jared just learned how to
hashtag cool
say-
dad. You don't have to do the hashtag cool dad anymore.
Jared just learned how to use Instagram,
Oh,
so
did he?
we're
Okay.
a little
Yeah,
behind.
gotcha.
The gram.
The gram. There you go. All right.
That's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no, not even close.
You can't see.
I love it. I mean, I used to teach. I mean, I still do. I'll teach a class sometimes.
You did.
I have taught
This
classes
was like
where,
not that long ago.
Yeah, where it was like how to post a story.
Yeah.
And people are like, whoa.
I can do that.
I mean, there's just a significant lag between, Gen Z and people that are, I'm not even going to put an age on it because I'm not going to have people come
Thank
after
you.
me. But
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, but back to the optimizing side of things. Yeah. So with Instagram, a lot of that is now being done. And what's great actually is the platform is actually favoring smaller influencers.
Okay.
So they'll push out their content right now more than those multi-million follower accounts. They're giving the little people a better chance, which is great because like the mortgage lender, the real estate agent, the plumbing company, like those aren't the accounts people traditionally are going after and looking for. So, but what you can do with that is to be intentional. So like, for example, with your caption,
Right.
if you post a video, like you would then take that caption before you would even write it. You would obviously have one of these AI models review what you're writing and say, hey, can you rewrite this caption so it's AI optimized so that AI could discover that and then ping it back to whoever's searching for what. But like if you're already creating content on social media or Instagram, like go ahead and put that piece of content on YouTube. Right, I think it's and there's so many tools now. So there's whether you're pre-scheduling things on these platforms,
right?
There's so many tools now available to you from an AI perspective that I mean, you can pretty much run an entire marketing agency by yourself. Now you got to be a little bit in the know-all of how to do that and some techie things, but there are some platforms now where like it's plug and play, which is pretty wild. So yeah, I mean, and I know you don't love being on video. But you're amazing at it because I've helped you.
It's actually less about not loving it and more about like the perfection of the content, honestly. I mean, you know, if you said, here you go, say this, do this, easy. That's I'm so far past that. But the struggle to do the...
Yeah. So you want to hear the good news? You don't even have to do the videos anymore. So my company will clone people. So we clone basically from a photo.
Can you make me better looking?
Yeah, that's going to cost extra, but we could probably do it. We could probably do it.
Money is no object with that.
So we can literally, you now have the capability of taking a photo of someone, cloning them. You clone their voice. They no longer have to do the video anymore. I can feed it. So the way that we operate is like, for example, if it's a real estate agent, literally I will clone them, clone their voice. I feed it the script that I want it to say. A lot of this stuff that we're doing is like helping agents stay in front of their database once a month.
Right.
So it's like, hey, a little bit about Kansas City, a little bit out of this, and then a restaurant. But like what would have taken them hours and hours and hours has now been compressed to basically nothing because we're doing it all for them. So it's a wild world that we're living in that you can now operate in where like, yeah, maybe some of that stuff held you back before. Maybe you always wanted to build a brand and get on video, but you just couldn't get yourself, you know, to get on camera. That's no longer even a problem. You can literally clone yourself and be pumping out content as much as you want.
How does that, though, feel authentic and genuine? Like, how are you really representing your personality if you're not actually the person doing it?
That, I mean, that's kind of the catch-22 of it, right? So, because the biggest thing about a lot of this and building a brand, and some would argue like, I do envision a space where we probably go away from that.
Right.
And people are literally just like, what's actually working really well right now from a format perspective is when you look like you're literally, it's just you, there's no editing. It, like, you know when you take a FaceTime with someone?
Yeah.
It's up close. Those videos are performing very well right now on social media. And
I've noticed.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you're, again, in real estate, plumbing, financial advising, whatever, but it's the sense of like, okay, I'm talking to a human being. So I think there's two sides to that, right? Where there's that, and then there's also where, you know, we do have to be top of mind.
Yeah.
Visibility is a really important thing for people. And the biggest struggle for a lot of people is, you know, how to be consistent and what to do and how to do it. And a lot of people are like, God, I don't have the time. I don't want to do it, right? And so they need someone like us to come in and just say, you know what, we're going to do it for you so you don't have to lift a finger. And part of what I coach people on is like, okay, listen, we're going to take care of your feed.
Sure.
Stay authentic in your stories.
Okay.
Because stories is a really great place to where you can build a relationship. So your feed, in essence, is a place to attract new people. But the stories is really where you build that authentic side, that connection where someone feels like, wow, man, Jared's not just a pretty face. Like, this guy's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I can relate to him.
I'm sold.
Yeah. So there's a number of ways to do it. But you bring up a really interesting point because that is the world that we're falling into where it's like, what is real and what isn't real? And can I really believe this person anymore? And so, I don't know. I've kind of just like, you know what? I've made peace with it in the sense like it's here, right? Yep. And I'm going to capitalize on it. It's going to exist anyway, so I'm using it to my benefit. On the flip side, I use it sometimes for therapeutic reasons, right? Like I'll be like, hey, act as a, you know, anxiety coach, right? And when I'm in kind of like a spin, then it's nice for me to kind of get that so-called coach right there in front of me and be like, okay, here. It's funny. I actually was like, I had a case of vertigo a couple weeks ago, and I was like, this is it. This is what takes me down. Like, I'm gonna be like this for the rest of my life. And every single day, I was like talking to the AI and like, okay, well, this is how I'm feeling. And like, it feels like I'm a little bit better, and it would kind of like guide me through it. And eventually, it was like, Daniel, enough. Like, I can't do this anymore.
Legit.
Like, even AI was like, dude, like,
pull it together.
But you know, it was helpful, you know, for that little bit of reassurance and things like that. So
that is so funny because I will late at night sometimes I'll be in the kitchen doing whatever and I'm like using AI to create marketing pieces and eventually I'll end up in an argument with AI, right?
Yeah.
And one time I'm like, you're making me look too fake. And it's like, you are too picky, Danielle. Clearly. I mean, and it's so funny.
Right. It's crazy.
But it's also true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild stuff.
It is.
I mean, we're really at the tip of the iceberg with this too. And I feel like, you know, every 6 months I feel like, oh, wow, like I'm now, something has already like gone away and now I'm implementing. Like before it was like we would have to record you and then we could clone you that way. Now it's like just a photo, done. And then like eventually it'll be, I mean, it's moving so quickly.
Wow.
How do normal people keep up with this?
Well, they don't. And I think that's the thing is like, it kind of depends on where you are. Like I always consider myself kind of just like a crafty, resourceful person, right? I did horrible in school, didn't do well. I had ADD, really didn't know what I wanted to do in life until I kind of fell into this role initially within the insurance world. And when I kind of was able to tap into this idea of like my creative side, and I was able to help people with content, marketing, and then my business took off. I was like, wow, there's something here. And then I just kind of went all in on that. And have continued to go down that road, not only to make my life easier, right? Because before I was writing scripts for people,
right?
And now, and I was primarily in one industry because I really only knew real estate and the market and things like that. So I do some research. Now I'm playing around in 15 different industries, right? So I'm no longer just typecasted to just real estate. I have clients that are financial advisors, plumbing, garage installation companies,
anyone
solely because of AI.
Yeah.
Because I can reverse engineer the process where I'm like, hey, I want you to act as a master content creator, identify what key points are that people are looking for in a plumber, a lender, whatever, and then help me create scripts around that. Vroom, done. So.
And then you put those scripts into something that's AI generated.
Correct.
Wow.
And then my team posts it, and then basically all of that has been now done. So
and you just cash the checks.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. We're growing. We're going in the right direction. I have three women at home.
Yes, you do.
So they're like, hey, buddy, let's see how much you made today, because Disneyland's expensive.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there, but I also it's a passion of mine. You know what I mean? Like I've really gravitated towards this side of it because I'm a creative person. I've really fallen in love with this idea of like building a brand, marketing, but also just like the coaching side of things is really fun to me, right? The more and more that I'm getting to meet all these different walks of life and people, and it's kind of the same thing. Everyone struggles with the same thing of like, what do I do? How do I get started? I really am scared to put myself out there, and being able to kind of like guide them a little bit and like, hey, listen, like I get it. Like it's a little scary in the beginning, but like I know you lurk in this mountain, but like I got a chairlift right here. Like hop on, like we can do it together. Yeah. So it's been really cool to do that.
So going back to personal brand, what I hear you saying is use AI to help you decipher to some extent even what that is.
Yep. Yeah. So another key thing that you could do, going back to that example of like talking to it, like you could literally be like, okay, here's the business that I own. Here's what we do. Help me identify how to build a brand around my business, right? And then, you know, you can identify certain targets that you want to like attract, right? So whatever your businesses you're in, and you know that like, hey, I really want to get more of this kind of customer, build that into your prompt, right? So like, hey, help me identify my strengths, help me build a brand, but also really help me capture this type of client. Because then it will literally, I mean, it can do anything. It could build you out a 60-day social media agenda specifically around how to attract attorneys to refer X kind of deals. I don't know, you know?
So if it builds that for you, let's say, you know, basic stuff. Someone has ChatGPT. They're talking, conversating, all these things are happening. So if there was your second most recommended AI tool, we're establishing what we need to do.
Yeah.
But then to execute that, you know, what is another tool that is useful that people can use? Because I mean, it's increasingly becoming that there are so many. It's not one app or two apps. It's every day there's something different. And I think it's easy to get lost in that and become overwhelmed with, okay, what's, you know, the most user friendly.
Yeah. So I guess it kind of depends on what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve. I would say tools that I'm using a lot, One in particular is called Gamma AI. You no longer
GAMMA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What that does is automatically can build presentations for you. It can do, I mean, a number of different things. But the way that I've done it is basically like whether I'm auditing someone's business, auditing someone's social media, I can literally take their account. Like, for example, let's say we were going to audit, your profile.
Let's not.
I would.
Be a fun exercise.
Yeah.
No. We have nothing to say here.
I would screenshot it, or I would take the URL, I'd put it in ChatGPT, right? And I'd say, hey, go ahead and act as a social media expert, audit this profile. And it'd go, and then it would basically identify all the strengths and all the weaknesses. Then I copy all of that. Then I would go to Gamma AI.
Okay.
You can literally drop and paste, and it basically will create the most pretty looking presentation you've seen within less than 60 seconds. And it's everything laid out. So whether that's an audit for a lender or, a business, like you're trying to put together a presentation, like that alone is game changing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that tool I feel like can be used for a number of different things. That's been great. I guess it depends on like what you're really looking for. I mean, there's more and more stuff every day. Obviously, like I said, HeyGen is a platform where you can clone yourself. Like I said,
I remember the first time you did that, and you sent me that, and you're like, "Do you think this is me?"
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah. It's crazy. I think it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. But the beauty is, as well, is once you kind of build out what you're trying to achieve with your brand, your business, you can also just ask AI, "Hey, go ahead and recommend me certain AI tools that will make my life easier in achieving this." And it'll recommend tools that I didn't even know existed out there. Like at one point I wanted to know about, I was playing around with the idea of scraping leads for people, right? Because I'm like, how cool would it be? Because we started to do email campaigns to certain people. And what do you know? I asked AI, hey, I'm looking for some sort of tool that can help me scrape leads. I don't want to manually do that. Use Outscraper. Okay, cool. What's that? Oh, show me that you can it'll go out and do all that for you, right?
Wow.
So there's a lot happening. I just read this article the other day about a guy out in California. He's him and his brother, it's two people. The company's now worth $1.8 billion. So basically the first real company that's launched with two people. And funny enough, what he really did though was he didn't come up with anything. All he got really good at was using all these different mechanisms together in a way to then grow the overall business. Now he happens to be playing in the medical space. I can't remember quite exactly what they were doing, but somehow connecting doctors with patients and everything like that. But all he did was piece together all these AI tools to then create this company. So, I mean, it's every day now. It seems like there's a new AI tool and AI bot that's coming out. I think it's just identifying what it is that you're trying to achieve. Ask AI how you can do that, and specifically what tools would be good for you.
And then ask again. Ask again, because you never know.
Yeah,
it might be different.
You literally never know. I mean, my wife says I'm one with the robots because like I'm literally I'm like, okay, so here's the deal, and then when and she's like, are you talking to me? I'm like, no, I call it Carl. I have a name for him. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, or like literally yesterday.
Put Carl away.
Yeah, she's like, enough with the Carl for tonight. But I mean, it's crazy. I've gotten so used to doing everything. Like our daughter was having like a flip out. My wife's really into this.
Older or younger? Daughter.
Older one, the 6-year-old.
Yep.
And my wife, thank God for her, because she reads all the books. And there's this lady named Dr. Becky, who like it's all about helping children like deep feeling, like who have big feelings or whatever. Yep. And you can't. A lot of times when a child overacts, it's very natural for us to be like, hey, stop that, don't do that, right?
Right.
But you're supposed to catch them on their level and kind of emotionally reason them a certain way, acknowledge their feelings, acknowledge how they're feeling, which obviously sounds easier said than done when they're losing their stuff and you're like, okay, haven't slept in a couple days. And
I get it. I have a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And a 4-year-old.
Yeah. So you get it. So a lot of times, sometimes I'll be like, hey, I want you to act as Dr. Becky. Here's what's happening with my daughter. Tell me how to approach that. But my wife, we didn't know what to do because, it's long story short, she just was like, keep coming in and out of the bed. She said she was hungry. We already fed her. I was like, no, I don't want to go to the AI for advice on how to raise my child. So she's very like polar opposite. She wants nothing to do with this. Mm-hmm. She's very much like, I want to be authentic. She's not even on social media. She's very much like,
in a way.
Yeah. She very much is like, but she also knows that like it's here, and I don't know. Like I said, I kind of did the opposite, where I kind of jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Where at the end of the day, I'm just adapting to it and using it to my advantage.
So, do you feel like having the tool of AI allows you to be more efficient and then therefore free up more of your space and energy for like emotional intelligence and connecting with people on a real level? Because I've heard a lot of younger people that are extremely smart talking about, AI isn't out to replace you.
Yeah.
It's out to allow you to have more time and
Right.
energy and, to have the emotional connection.
Yeah.
So, I mean, since you're in the thick of it
Yeah.
and you have a wife that's kind of on the
Yeah.
opposite, there's probably an in-between. And maybe you guys are a really good offset for each other, probably.
I mean, we're probably a really good offset. I would say that I'm so, it's all so new, and I'm so in the middle of it all that I don't even know really how this is going to look in the next couple of years. All I know is like I have my head down and I'm just running full speed because I figured something out that works really well. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going on this. I will say that from a time perspective, oh my God, hands down. It's like there's 10 of me, right? From a sense of like what I can achieve, which I do think frees me up
Right.
to then do other things where like, yeah, like before if I had to do certain things manually, I can now use AI to do that. And then that opens up an opportunity for me to like go spend more time with my girls or
Yeah.
something like that, right?
yeah, but
Or-
is Carl your best friend now? I mean, do we have
does.
friends anymore, Daniel?
Well, what's crazy is I've even seen devices where they're like, it's a neck thing. It's like a little necklace and like it talks to you. And you can be like, hey, so what do you think? And they're like, that, I don't know. Like, I'm a very people person. Like
You are.
That's how I like, I don't know, thrive is I need that human interaction. So I don't know. But there is a lot of people that are not like me who don't want to talk to people, but are also very lonely and depressed. And, it's nice to have that somewhere that's willing to listen. I mean, these things will do whatever you want and listen, and
Everybody needs a friend.
everyone needs a friend. It's like that movie with Joaquin Phoenix, Her, right? Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
the emotional side, that connection, I don't know. I mean, I do think what'll happen is at some point there will be a comeback where people will be like,
Yeah.
okay, enough with all this like stuff. Like
Yeah.
this is too much. Where people are craving that authentic side of people, and like I don't want to see any more AI. We've already seen that on social media where there's AI. What is it? What's the word? Trash or AI like. I don't know. There's just like it's so
All the
obvious.
generated.
Yeah, like
the
it's so-
images.
Some of it's
the-
really bad.
Yeah. And so people are like, ugh. And that's why you have started to see this kind of comeback to just pull out your phone, talk in front of your camera, and, add value to people's lives. Like that's a lot of times where people, I think, get confused on socials. A lot of people lead with selling, where it's more about adding value to someone's
Yeah.
life. And if you can lead with value, they tend to stick around more. And so, yeah, whether it's a win or a loss that you experienced, or, I treat my social media as almost, I don't know, a little bit of a reality TV show. Like I said, I've got a
it's
crazy
hilarious.
Russian family, and I'm kind of an out there dude. But I have my own struggles. I've struggled with anxiety and depression, and I've been, forward with that on there, and went to Turkey to get a hair transplant. We're currently growing. The back hasn't grown in yet. So that I documented that whole process. But I can't tell you how many people reached out to me like, oh my God, I want to know everything about it. My
Yeah.
husband needs this, or oh my God, or this person was struggling with it. Like people are very hungry for connection.
Yeah.
In a world where we're all disconnected, people are very hungry for connection. So I think it's a level of leveraging this stuff to figure out how to make your life better, how to make more money, how to get better at something. But at the end of the day, like it still should boil down to, connecting
Right.
with people on a real way.
I definitely feel every day that there's so much noise and so much, you're so accessible by so many, I have 2 phones,
Yeah.
3 emails,
Yeah.
instant message on the computer for work, the texting, there's always a noise,
Right.
a notification of
Yeah.
something. And so taking that and simplifying it and streamlining, there's a huge appeal to that for me. Mm-hmm. I haven't really figured out what that looks like yet,
Yeah.
but this is very helpful.
Right.
But I do think that it's a lot. And
Yeah.
so people who crave connection even know, like I just want to be alone half the time because I'm so
Yeah.
overstimulated. But
Yeah.
these are tools.
Yeah. I have a friend, he's a software engineer, and he built our website, and he did some pretty amazing stuff with his brother's business who owns an electrical supply company. And I was like, dude, we got to do something with this. Like he's a light years ahead of what, I even know. but he's on the more back end. But he knows my space is pretty heavy in the real estate world. So we started thinking about identifying certain pain points for real estate agents. Well, most real estate agents still have a lot of minutia going in, and it's just like your business, right? A lot of like, I have to email this out, I got to do this, I got to know if I do that, and it's like the thing that we always feel like we come back to is, and just even in your world, is like finding that time back for yourself.
Yeah.
Because clients, if you want to be a high producing lender or real estate agent, customer service has to be
100%.
top notch. And if it's top notch, it means taking a text at 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever. It means taking a phone call, or hey, they've got a silly question, you're still going to answer it.
Yeah.
I view that stuff as a way that could be offset by AI, right? Like, hey, let me know, hey, when's my closing date? Like, that is important for them to know, but can't AI just take care of that for them, right? Why does your evening have to be interrupted, right, in order to answer that question? So, like, my friend and I are working on something in that regard right now, and it's actually already yeah. So I'll talk to you about that.
Say no more.
Yeah. The whole idea is to kind of let people get their freedom back.
I like that.
Because there's a lot of stuff that we have to do in this business where it's like, hey, if you don't answer your phone right away, then you lose that deal and it goes to someone else.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of businesses experience that, right? Whether you're a roofer, someone calls and then you miss that call and they're like, okay, I'll just call the next roofer, right?
100%.
It's a right now world we're living in.
But part of that is just because, like, with COVID, I mean, I'm sorry, when the level of like customer service is, oh my gosh, someone called me back.
Right.
Because I can't tell you how many times I hear that. No one ever called me back.
Yeah.
I called 5 contractors. I called 6 whatever, right?
Right.
So there's not a lot to live up to.
Right. And and some of these people are like probably amazing what they do, but they're just overwhelmed with business.
Yeah.
And they don't have the right systems in place that could help identify some of that. So, and there are already systems like that where AI will literally talk to the client. So it's no longer like, it's like, oh, hi, when would you like to schedule your appointment? Boom, boom. And then it gets set in their calendar. Right. So it's like, again, identifying certain pain points in your business. But like specifically for you, like I know what you go through, through the week, dealing with real estate agents, dealing with clients, like it's a lot. Right. But you're on all the time. Yeah. So if there'd be a way to even get 30% of your life back. Yeah. So that someone could just be like, hey, I'm going to ask what my bot, like whatever this AI thinks. Right.
Right.
So there's some, but
okay.
Yeah. I'll fill you in on all that.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's simplify, wrap this up, because this is really interesting, and we're probably going to have you back in 4 to 6 months. Let's see what's changed. But
it won't even be me back. It'll be my clone.
There you go.
I'll just be like, hello, Robert.
A full head of hair.
Hello, Steven. I don't know.
Long hair.
Yeah.
Takeaways though.
Long Turkish hair.
Yeah, that's right. You got it, Jared. You got it. That's right.
I'm sorry. My brain is scarred.
I get it. It's a whole thing. I could literally come back and just do a whole podcast on my hair transplant journey because I went to Turkey.
Right.
And I brought some friends with me who you know.
Yeah.
And that alone is like a podcast in its own. People would be fascinated with that experience.
Of course they would.
I watched it on social. Yeah. And it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Like,
not a walk in the park, but you got to do what you got to do.
You guys had some adventures for sure.
Yeah, that was quite the journey.
Interesting crew of people too.
For
I mean, how do you not have adventures? Okay, we digress.
Yes.
So, to those listening, summarize this. Like, talk to your AI, ChatGPT, whatever that is, right? But the next step, like, I just want people to leave, like, I mean, I think about this stuff every day, and a lot of people don't. But even I am like, ooh, I should be taking notes, which you don't need to do because you just can re-listen to this, everyone, as many times as you want to.
Yeah.
But if someone's excited right now about everything you said, obviously, let's talk to AI more. But what else?
Yeah, I think, there's still some human. We're not at a point yet where you can click a button and everything gets done. Right. So I think
easy button?
Yeah, there's no easy button, unfortunately, right now. It's still going to take some work. So it's kind of identifying, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to put in some work? Or are you just like, hey, I want to kind of have an understanding of it, and then I want to kind of have someone do this for me. But you can still save a lot of time and money by identifying where you're trying to get to, because instead of having to go pay someone to help you build your brand, to identify your target audience, to do all this, you could do that within 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so you've identified what you're trying to accomplish, who you're trying to attract, and then you can identify, well, what are the ways of attracting those people, right? Well, if we know that social media is going to be a big driving factor, well, you need to identify 2 things. Are you willing to put in the work, or are you willing to offset some of that to AI, or are you willing to offset that to a team?
Right.
So you kind of have to figure out where you want to be. I think majority of people don't want to lift a finger.
Sure.
So then you got to identify, okay, well, I'm going to have this bot do it, right? Which, again, we're still not at a point where you do have to still have some level of understanding how to use these things.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're just not there yet where it's so easy that anyone can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, well, that seems still a little complicated. Okay, well, I'm going to have this person do it. So in some aspects, depending on what you're looking for, yes, it's definitely gotten easier, but it's not completely hands-off yet.
Right.
So you're kind of in the middle, but I guess it just kind of depends on what you're looking to do to achieve. Like if today's conversation is about marketing and branding, I'd say that all can definitely be done for you. I don't know the first thing about making a logo, but I've helped companies make logos.
Yeah.
So that's off the table, right? You no longer have to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing advice, no longer have to pay for that. How to properly write an email so that it opens up with a 76% open rate or something like that. AI can help you with that.
For sure.
So identifying what exactly you're trying to get at, and that's why I feel like the most important thing is just starting here, identifying what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and then AI will help you get there.
Okay.
I can't hold your hand through it, obviously, but AI can, and that's the beauty of it.
Well,
Or I guess I'll hold your hand, but you might have to charge you for that.
Carl
But it's
can
fine.
hold my
Yeah.
hand, okay?
Yeah.
Carl.
Yeah, Carl
Carl
do it.
can handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We appreciate your energy, your knowledge, you
Yeah.
being here. If anyone listening is so excited about what you're saying and they think, maybe I want to connect with this guy.
Yeah.
Maybe I need him to help me. How can
Yeah.
they find you?
Yeah.
You can find me on social media. It's just my name, Daniel Simanovsky.
Can you spell that?
Yeah. Daniel, and then Simanovsky, Simanovsky. You can email me at Daniel at, I have several emails, but just email me at Daniel at agencyinsurance.us or Daniel at agencysocial.us.
I recommend everyone find him on social. It's very entertaining.
It's great.
Yeah, I apologize in advance.
No, none.
But, yeah.
Great.
I try to keep it light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Life's too short. Everyone takes themselves too seriously. So that's kind of how I operate. But yeah, no, it's a wild world we're living in. I think there's never been a better opportunity. I kind of see it as like kind of the AI gold rush.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of identify
Yeah.
how to get your hands on it, I mean, yeah. 10 years, I don't know what everything's going to look like. We might all just be,
Yeah.
working for the robots, but nothing we can do at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think the ball is rolling. So,
Yeah.
get on it or get run over by it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah,
A lot of
appreciate you.
information, and
Yeah.
it's almost overwhelming.
It can be very overwhelming for sure.
Yeah. So I think the services you provide are definitely valuable for a lot of people.
Yeah, I
because,
appreciate that.
It's a full-time job trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Good thing we have you.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
You might, my wife might say otherwise, but yes.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Mortgage Momentum. If you've taken any value from this, please like, share. We are trying to grow our base.
Someone listen.
Someone listen, please. Yes.
I'll get my Russian mother to listen.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that'd be great. Yeah. But thanks for joining us, and we will catch you next time on Mortgage Momentum.
Thanks for joining us on Mortgage Momentum. If you got value from today's episode, subscribe, share it with a friend, leave a review, or email us feedback at mortgagemomentum@bell.bank.
We always welcome comments, feedback, and suggestions for future shows. Thanks for joining us, and keep your momentum going. Until next time.